know what's going on. Nobody really knows what's going on. A couple things before I get started.
Use the mic just a little bit here.
There we go. That's intimidating. Couple things. We've got a bi-monthly newsletter that goes out, and I brought along a few extra copies today, so if anybody wants to take a copy, it's up here on the table. It's pretty good, and this issue especially, because once annually we print our entire policy on our mailing, and so that has the Farmers Union policy in it for Kansas Farmers Union. Mary Howell's with me today. She's membership with Farmers Union and an old friend, and we travel all the time, so I tell people she's my second wife, because she's with me more than my wife is, but she's actually on national policy this year. Just was in Washington, D.C. last week with the policy committee there that'll be presenting our policy at our national convention. So that was an experience for her. Mary's not shy. She'll tell you what needs to be said, so that's why I wanted her on it. Yeah, I'm from Wheaton, and it's an old clannish area, and if I got a captive audience, I always got to show family slides, so this is my clan last Easter, and so 4 kids, 2 in-laws, I got a daughter-in-law and a son-in-law, and I never knew till after they got married and they got a little more comfortable with me just how intimidated they were by me, so I guess I'm an opposing force, but everybody's still together. And we had 2 grandsons at that time next. And so then I got to put pictures up. And then after that picture, then we had a granddaughter last spring. So that's Emerson. And so I just keep adding pictures. I got a captive audience. Next, this was taken in December. This is my mother sitting in the middle. And this is her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So clannish is right. Next. And this is, we've been there a while. So this is actually the house that Gary was raised in. This is the Teske homestead. And my brother Ken lives there now. And great-great-grandpa Michael came over in October of 1868. And he passed away, I believe, in 91. And he's still standing in that picture. So I'll give you a little thought about when that picture was taken. Next. Steep country. We host a lot of foreign exchange people. Every time I go get them from the airport, when I come in, their eyes get real wide. Where's Flat, Kansas at? You're in the wrong part of the state. So.
I got 2 there.
So, this is one of our pastors. Actually, I got Mary Howell here. I actually bought those heifers from Dan and Mary, so they've been a good addition to the herd. Next. Now we're getting into the farm bill. And one other thing before I get to rambling about the farm bill, and forget to mention this, is I'm kind of upset by what the governor and this administration is going to be doing. There's nothing that's going to stop them from doing what they want to do. Everything's in place to, even a bill was presented yesterday to change the selection process for judges so the governor can't pick his judges now. And so I have another employee, Nick Lewandowski, who's a political wonk, and I've sent him down to Topeka to live and to live blog from the Capitol on what they're doing. So that site, when it's up and going, should be up either today or tomorrow. You can access from the Kansas Farmers Union website, and you should be able to follow the next blog. So, Nick is a ventriloquist, and he's got this dummy that's Elmer, and he's got bib overalls and a farmer's shirt, and they do their acts. And so I told him I wanted him to take Elmer down there, and then I wanted to have the top of the blog. I wanted to have Elmer there typing at a computer that they could put on top of the blog, and it's one dummy checking out the other dummies in the feed. I don't know if I can get him to do it or not. I was serious, but I don't think he's taking it serious. But he has a sense of humor, too. One thing that we always put up on our website all the time, this is actually not our figures, this is from the USDA. This just shows a farmer's share of what's in every product that you buy. And we have that discussion a lot just to point out the fact that, you know, you may see an increase in the price of what a farmer gets, and and it gets in the news and everything's gonna go sky high in price, and then how little that actually is of the cost of the final product. And, you know, beer is kind of one example. There's 6 cents in a 6-pack of beer, what a farmer gets. You know, he probably drinks more than that, so. Next, Farm Bill dates back to Franklin Roosevelt. There were actually programs even back into the 1860s that I've seen where there was federal assistance, but the Farm Bill that we know it as today came through the Great Depression. And I'll get to another slide later, but one of the big things in that was parity. Are you familiar with what the term parity means? Parity is an index, and the government is still required by law to monitor this, and it's a comparative index between what a farmer makes and what the rest of society makes. It's like what has inflation done to the rest of society, what has inflation done for the farmer? And then by law, the original Farm Bill that we revert back to on December 31st at midnight, if they wouldn't have done this by law, they talked about milk all at once going to an astronomical figure. That's because parity would have kicked in. And if we would have got prices for our products equivalent to how the rest of America progressed financially, this is the prices that we would get, and it's astronomical. And so I got a chart later on in the slides, but parity's a big thing, and the purpose of that was, you know, we had the First World War, and it was how do you keep Johnny home on the farm after he's seen Paris, free and free, and you know, how are you going to have a social life for your rural communities? And that's something we kind of need to look at today with rural depopulation. The evolution of the farm program, I talked about parity, and the original farm program, and up until the Freedom to Farm Bill of the 1986 Freedom to Farm Bill, the farm program was market distorting. If there was too much product out there that the price dropped to nothing, then the government would step in and either buy some of that product off the market or tell the farmer to plant less. And so it was a balancing act. And since the Freedom to Farm Bill that our own Pat Roberts did, then it took that clear out of the picture, and it's just more or less a subsidy. And the farm program wasn't meant to be a drain on our budget. It was meant to be a balancing act, and it worked quite well that way for many years. Go ahead. I put this slide in here, and I'm kind of a bad boy for doing it because it's kind of internal politics, but it's a way of kind of showing you how politics work in Washington, D.C. Tom Bias is a close friend, and for many years was our top lobbyist for Farmers Union in Washington, D.C., and there's a lot of power there. And then he actually became our national president for 4 or 5 years, and we didn't get along good in that role. But he has stepped aside now, and he took the chairmanship of Growth Energy, and that was a brand new startup, and that's to promote corn ethanol. And he quit the national presidency, which I thought was a sin of a salary. And he just went automatically doubled his salary. And what I'm saying is, if you think politics of corn and this next farm bill is going to change, when you got this much power and this much knowledge, and you know where the skeletons are on Hill, this is how things happen. And ethanol will be protected, I'm quite sure, whether that's good or bad. Federal spending on farm safety net. If the previous farm bill would have went forward, this is what it looks like. The farm program and farm and nutrition program is 2% of the total budget of the government, and out of that, 80% is nutrition, SNAP program, etc., 14% safety net, 6% energy and conservation. Next. This just breaks it down a little more. We have, rural development, energy, disaster, counter-cyclical payments, crop insurance is kept the farmers on the farm the last 2 years through this drought. And if that wasn't there, I don't know what would be happening. It saved me for 2 years. Next. Chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, Senator Stabenow from Michigan. This gal's pretty sharp. She doesn't back down. She has a wider perspective of agriculture programs than Pat Roberts does. They were working through, the Senate came through with the Farm Bill first. They actually worked pretty well bipartisanly. Next, on House side, it's Congressman Lucas from Oklahoma. And even the House passed the Farm Bill in good time, and both of them were saving the government billions of dollars. One was $28 billion, I believe, the other was $31 billion. We took our share of what we know we need to do as cuts and went through with the proposed farm program. We could not get Boehner to work it. So the Senate passed it, the Senate Ag Committee passed it, the Senate passed it, went to the House Ag Committee, the House Ag Committee passed one. There were some differences that could have been worked out, and then Boehner would not bring it up to work it. And that was right at the election time, and I'm sure that he knew he didn't have control of his congressman and didn't want to put that on the national stage. Next, he doesn't like farm bills anyhow. Makeup of the Ag Committee. This is one thing I like to point out because every election cycle we have less and less of the old prairie power political figures, the Bob Doles and the Tom Dashells out there. And we're getting more and more of an urban influence on our farm bill committees, and that's going to reflect on the farm bills in the future as it goes. And that's exciting to me. I think it brings a more happy we all live together thing. And for a short time we had a chairwoman, name escapes me. We better just move on. Next. Okay, now I get to the last second farm bill extension that happened here at the end of the year. It was tied to the fiscal cliff bill. I had to vote for it. It really wasn't an extension as much as a creation. And so next, the word I have, this hasn't never been out in the public except for me, but my sources are pretty good that this was put together in the middle of the night between our own Pat Roberts and Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. They didn't create it in the middle of the night. It's way too detailed for that. So this was a package waiting in the background, ready to be slipped in at the right time, and it preserves a lot of the status quo power within the farm bill that we thought was going to go away. Direct payments are intact, and both the Senate and the House Ag Committees have done away with direct payments. So just to show you where that came from. Next, I said it wasn't so much an extension as a rewrite of the Farm Bill. It's extended to the end of September, when the Farm Bill should have been renewed this past September. It preserves direct payments. The dairy got screwed. Livestock programs all got screwed. A lot of stuff in there, they included them, but then they didn't fund them. So it's discretionary funding only. So where are you going to get the funding to fund the programs that need to be funded? And some of these are big. The REAP program is gone. REAP program is in USDA Rural Development. That's where they were doing energy conservation programs. That's where businesses could get a little bit of assistance to put in energy conserving things on their businesses. This is where some of the wind was being developed from. It's gone. They just got rid of it. And it was selectively yanked out and got rid of. Where did that come from? And it was a well-liked program. I think Kansas never used it very well, but other states used it very well. Beginning Farmer program, gone. I mean, they extended it, but didn't fund it. So next. Go on, Murray.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I went to the next slide. It was.
It's fine, yeah. Okay, a couple of the okay things in the extension is crop insurance is still there, and I already mentioned how important that is. And then with the direct payments still fully funded, the budget baseline is protected. What I just mean is we have to renegotiate this whole farm bill again. We don't know when it's going to happen. You know, they got a fiscal cliff again in 2 months. Very likely there will be a farm bill working stuck on this fiscal cliff bill again. but we don't know. And so what's us playing in Washington D.C., we don't know when we got to be there. We don't know when we got to be working things. So it's just a mess. And not only that, Chairman Stabenow, Congressman Lucas, and then Congressman Peterson from Minnesota, the ranking member on the House side, they're all pissed off because they were completely excluded on that farm bill. All this proactive work that they had done as two committees, and then they come there the next morning and here's a farm bill, and it's nothing like anything that they worked together to do. And so they're saying, we don't want to work at this anymore. If you're going to just ignore us, we can't do this. And so it took the whole concept and the purpose of the committee structure out of the system. And so they're upset. We don't know when we need to be working this. It's just a fiasco in D.C. right now. And then on top of that, Senator Thad Cochran is a new ranking member of the Senate Ag Committee. Pat Roberts got bumped because Senator Cochran had term limits on his chairmanship of appropriations, I believe. And so he had to find some other hole. He had seniority over Senator Roberts, so he kicked him off and he took it. Well, that's an amazing dynamic. I have no use for Senator Roberts whatsoever. Less use for him. and this is, he's Mississippi. This is big cotton. This is big rice. This is big government payments. And so this changes the whole concept again. I mean, and he's got enough power and seniority within the Senate structure that he gets what he wants. And so this is a dynamic that's coming into play now. Next. So then the fight is on. Next. This is just looking at the Senate stuff. That's old stuff now. So next. This is the parity index I was talking about. So right now, corn is at one of the highest prices I've ever seen in my history of farming. I've farmed since 1973. And $6.95 a bushel. If we got parity, it'd be $12.10 a bushel. And this is a government calculation that's required by law. And so you can see what that would do for the ag community in rural Kansas and rural America if over the years they'd have got the parity price by law that they were supposed to get, and how that would have changed the structure of corporate agriculture compared to family farms, and et cetera. This is a biggie. The president of Nebraska Farmers Union doesn't pull any punches. His license plate says parity on it. And dairy is down here. And that's, right now, dairy is 1970. The years I milked, I got $12.50. I quit milking in 1994. And if it was by parity, you'd be getting $52.70. And so just think how many farms would still be out there if they got that kind of an income, and how that'd keep the rural implement dealer going, and how that would keep your businesses and local communities going. This concentration of wealth is not a good thing. Next. Why hasn't it passed? I've already been rambling about that. Go ahead. I just like that picture. That's kind of what they look like when you come out of a fight with one of them guys. Next. Next. I'm going to get done quick. Next. Okay. This is what the House came through with their target prices. Probably we're going to see something like that in the final program. Next. Farmers Union's always advocated for trying to get the Farm Bill back to what it was originally intended for, and that's a safety net, not a just a funnel feeding all the time, but a safety net. And we do that by farm-owned reserves. If we have on-farm storage, and as the drought continues, that's going to get more and more important when we have very low crop production. I wanted to point this out. I just recently signed a North Korean free trade agreement, and Farmers Union was opposed to that. We were kind of the only farm organization opposed to it.
spec too?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we gotta carry the gorilla too, but the 65-35 on the side is when they negotiate free trade agreements, there's a ratio called 35-65, which allows a country that you sign a trade agreement with, that they can, with allied neighbors, they can bring in 35% of what they're gonna trade with you to your country and from other countries. In their case, they reversed that. And so South Korea can bring 65% of what goes to the United States in from neighboring countries, and the number one going to be North Korea. And so we've all at once got 65% of that agreement that can be slave labor in North Korea being traded to the United States fair and square. And that ain't good politics either, in my opinion. And that's why I had the gorilla. I like that picture. It's kind of like me most mornings, and I'd wanted Mary to use it in the slide presentation. She says,
I refuse.
And then one other thing I wanted to point out before I end is the other farm organization keeps out there feeding the world, and how are we going to feed the world? And that's, as the population increases, that's a serious thing, but it isn't going to be industrial agriculture in the United States that's feeding the world. 70% now of the world's population is fed by peasant labor. And what we need to do is teach our neighbors how to farm for themselves and not sell them. I had the opportunity in 2010 to go to Senegal, Africa, and try and help a village there a little bit. And that was a life-changing experience for me. And this young lady was walking along the corn and putting a handful of fertilizer by each corn plant in front of her husband, who was coming behind cultivating it. And it had just been pouring rain right before I took that picture, and she was so proud that I was taking a picture. She wanted to make sure I got the papoose just right. And so that's my favorite picture of the whole trip. That's her husband cultivating. We don't need to deal with that. A couple of things I want to point out as we're ending here. We've really gotten into hosting a lot of beginning farmer, trying to link up retiring farmers with beginning farmers, and working with veterans on farming. And it's been a really good year. We're putting on a lot of meetings, and they're well attended, and people like them. And our next one is this Saturday at Leonardville. And it's a beginning farmer workshop, and it's at Nelson's Landing up there. Jordy Nelson's mom has a restaurant there in Leonardville. It's really amazing. And we got, next slide, we got, I got the calendar up here. This is the morning, so we got, I have some financial, I used to be a financial analyst for K-State, so I get to put my 2 cents in, and then in the afternoon we got more speakers, and then we end it with a farmer panel. So, and these are all the producers that are doing value added and good things, and we'll be presenting there. And that's almost over half the state coming in, all the way from Republic up there and Belleville to the Topeka area and Lawrence area. And then just yesterday we got together for lunch, and before the lunch was over we had another conference planned. So this is going to be April 6th in Hiawatha, and it's food hubs and food co-ops and how local family farms can feed your communities. So if you go to our website, we'll keep you up to date. We do real good on the website right now. Yes, sir.
If parity was achieved, would subsidies end? Because I assume farmers wouldn't survive without subsidies. Agribusiness would not survive without subsidies. And if parity were reached, would all those subsidies that go to peanut farmers and whoever would they all end?
We should. I mean, that would be a big.
You
would be the equivalent of your urban neighbor with quality of life at that time. It should.
And if parity were achieved, food prices would go up proportionally.
Possibly, probably. But, you know, often it's bragged that we have the cheapest food supply in the world, but is that really the cheapest food, or is that subsidized at the grocery store by the time you buy your food?
Right.
And so if you're subsidizing that from government program payments or other subsidies to agribusiness, than is at the true cost of the food. And so the parity would reflect the true cost of the food. To have a social life and raise your family on a farm is very good.
And I assume hell will freeze over before that will happen.
That will never happen. That's why everybody was dancing up and down, because the farm bill didn't get renewed and it was going to revert back to the old one, and we all just, yeah, right.
One more, does that relate to why owner, whatever his name is, Tanger, doesn't like farm bills? You said he doesn't like, why doesn't he like farm bills?
I think he thinks it's, we're taking advantage of the government. McCain was the same way. Senator McCain never voted for a farm bill. He never talked favorably about a farm bill until he was running for president. And he did it with his teeth gritted. And actually, I mean, we all know that the Great Plains and the Midwest is as red as you can get, and Kansas is the worst of them all. And I'm not saying it's because President Obama was president, but the last few years have been some of the best years in farming we've had in my professional farming life. And the last good time was the Clinton era. And so it's kind of like, this is starting to look a little weird. And but I, you know, I'm not getting rich on the farm, but I'm paying the mortgage payments right now, and I haven't seen prices for cattle and grain like this in 30 years of farming, 40 years of farming. I started farming in '73. I should be retiring.
And why are the prices so high?
There was a lot of speculation early on that it was the ethanol impact on the corn price, and then the corn price was driving up all the other prices of wheat and soybeans because they had to compete for acreage. I think that's less the case anymore. I think that production has been down with the drought, and the livestock prices, they just had to come up because the input supplies going into raising your livestock with this high price grain was just knocking them out of business right now. So sometimes I'm a little cynical about what actually creates a market back then. So just make sure you get enough out there to stay there, keep doing your job. Gary?
Yeah, how do they, for those who receive the direct subsidies, how do they figure the subsidies? Is that somehow marked, to parity, or?
No, not at all. It's actually tied back to what was in place before the Freedom to Farm bill. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but every acre I got has something tied to it that I farm, and it's either a milo base or a wheat base or an oat base. And it goes back to that original base that was there before Freedom to Farm, and it's all prorated from that. And you think we're stealing everything out of the shelf. I think the biggest farm payment I ever got one year was $15 an acre. And so when you're looking at input costs of $200 or $300 an acre, it's really not a player. I mean, direct payments could go away and wouldn't make much of a difference in my operation at all. Livestock's never been included in it.
Well, would it make a big difference for some operations?
If they went away.
If they went away?
If right now, the really large farms, it's giving them an opportunity, they get this cash influx and they're buying land, they wouldn't have maybe the opportunity to do otherwise. So it's probably helping with the concentration some. But my argument is, from 1994 until 2000, I worked at Kansas State University as an farm financial analyst, an ag econ. But my job was to go out, sit down with struggling farmers and help them get through it. Whether that was having a farm sale, redoing their debt, negotiating with the debtors, bankruptcies, that was my job. And you get called and you go out on that farm. This is the first human that get this crisis call, and then I would be the one that would go out and meet the farmer. I ran into spouse abuse, child abuse.
Suicide.
I ran into it all. And there were times at night that I'd spend all night talking to someone just to keep them from shooting themselves. I don't talk about that often, I don't want to bring it now, but anyhow, I got friends all over the state. I've seen the books of hundreds of farms in Kansas, and the people trying to tell me how good things are. Yeah, don't bullshit me. I haven't seen the books. And I'd be sitting there talking to this one, trying to help his family out, and they'd just be beside themselves. How come our neighbor across the road can do it, and we can't make it work, and they got the fancy equipment? I can't tell them I was over there the week before. and so it was that kind of thing. But anyhow, those years, the farm program made the difference between whether they got credit for another year to farm and they did. And so when we talk about do they need it out there, yes, we need a program. Do we need direct payments the way they're structured now? No, because it's not socially appropriate. If we're getting good grain prices and we're getting good cattle prices, we shouldn't also be getting direct payments from the government. But when the prices are crap, that's what makes the difference between a family farmer staying on the farm and being eaten up by the corporate giant that has more of a cash flow or more reserve, I should say. And so, you know, this whole thing about concentration in agriculture, this isn't the first time this has been around the gamut. I mean, in the 30s, one farm that I own is right between where my grandfather's farm was and mine, and he had the opportunity to buy it in the 30s for $500 because the insurance company had taken it back to the farmer that they had financed, and insurance companies were getting into farming, and you know, he says it didn't matter. I didn't have $500, I couldn't buy it. So, you know, in the 1970s, we bought it for quite a bit more than that per acre. But I mean, this isn't the first time this whole game's been played, and there'll be an equalization again. But that government payment has its place, and it isn't something that we shouldn't be abusing the system the way we are now, and that's going to hurt us in the long run because people have lost faith in the credibility of the farm program because of direct payments. Yes, sir.
My family lives out in the Yakima Valley, Washington, and their crops are fruit, hops, mint, grapes. Do those crops fit into the farm bill at all?
No, they don't.
They're just free
Now,
operations.
the 2008 Farm Bill did bring specialty crops in, and there was some subsidies and starting to build that structure for that. But that all got kicked out with this extension of the farm.
So they don't have any crop insurance or anything.
That's right, they don't. And to take it a step farther, one of the most outspoken organizations out there is the Kansas Livestock Association. Very powerful in the state of Kansas. Very, very powerful in the state of Kansas. But they keep talking about livestock industry has never gotten into government payments, and they, you know, they defend that proudly. But when we're working anything in Topeka, we're working in D.C., and it has to do with messing with the Farm Bill ratios. They're the first ones squawking at the box. I mean, they say they don't benefit from the farm program. If the livestock industry gets cheap grain, that's benefiting from the farm program. And they're the first ones squawking. I mean, this is a whole system wanting to deliver cheap grain. And then you take it a step farther, and we have 95% of the soybeans raised in the state of Kansas are fed to livestock. And so the Kansas Soybean Association is one of the major funders behind something now called the Farmer and Rancher Alliance. And they're spending millions and millions of dollars on advertising to convince you that farm agriculture is the same as family farm agriculture. And I was actually sitting on a committee here in the state of Kansas, so you're going to get inundated with that over the next couple of years. You see billboards now on Interstate 70 that's paid for by that. And so,
I'm struggling with why are prices depressed compared to parity? Is somebody manipulating it? Is it a simple product of overproduction? Why is the price of wheat $6.95 and the parity $12? What's establishing that price?
I'm cynical as hell, but
That's okay, I can handle that.
It isn't a new phenomenon.
No.
In the 1840s, corn was so cheap that river boats were using it to fuel their boilers instead of buying wood from the Indians. I mean, but
Why are cattle prices below parity? Why are those prices so low?
we've lost control of our markets. Grain inspection packers and stockyards have gypsum. And I often talk to people, I call it an hourglass. We have the producers, and then everything and all the production is funneled through a very small funnel that everything can be controlled, and then it's distributed to the consumer. Well, the profit is in the funnel. And this is part of the problem now because the consumer has lost connection so much with the producer that they're starting to get into HSUS and things like that, and animal rights, and because they've lost that relationship and the connection to the farm. Everybody's 2 or 3 generations away from the farm now. And that's why we're so excited in what we're doing, trying to work with local food and feeding ourselves and feeding our communities and know your farmer programs. And this is kind of a win-win for everybody. But we've lost control of that market, and so it's very easily controlled by very few entities. I mean, when Teddy Roosevelt, in fact, did the antitrust busting in 1903, and when it created GIPSA, the Marine Inspection Package Stockyards Act, the market was only concentrated to 80% then. I think it's like 98% now in the livestock. I mean, you got Tyson, you got Smithfield Farms, you got Cargill, it's just so few players that there's no competitiveness. And Cargill isn't just the United States, it's worldwide. I mean, I often make a comment, I think that Cargill just keeps this barge of grain out there that they just kind of take back and forth from country to country that they want the price to come down at, you know. Yes, sir.
Well, when you lack competitors, doesn't that usually make the price go up?
No.
Well, depends on which end you're at. Farmers are always known as being the only entity out there that buy retail and sell wholesale. We have no control over the price we get, and we gotta pay in the store what we're buying, and so that's my argument. That would be my statement on that. Yes, sir.
Well, it's more of a philosophical, maybe even theological, but why is it, or how is it that the Kansas Farmers Union presents a different approach to, say, the other unions and organizations in agriculture? I mean, you're presenting things here like Food Up, Food Up, Farmers Bureau, I believe, whatever. I mean, they support kind of industrialized agriculture. What's the origin of all this difference?
I'll tell you a little history. Tell me when to quit here, because I get to rambling. But I don't have to be home till dark. But Farmers Union was started first in Point, Texas, in 1902. It worked up to Kansas by 1907. But the reason it got started in Point, Texas, because there was one entity down there that controlled all the cotton, and so a bunch of farmers got together and started doing it themselves, and that's what grew into National Farmers Union. And so then as this movement kept moving forward and farmers figured out they could work for themselves to get the economy of scale, every rural community you drive through has an elevator. Almost every one of them was built by Kansas Farmers Union local. And that's where, and at our peak, we had 102,000 members in Kansas. And we had our own our weekly newspaper that went out, and it had 35,000 subscription, and it was the size of the Topeka Capital Journal when it was actually a paper. And all those are on record at the Kansas Historical Society, and it's just fascinating reading. Well, in late teens, the Farmers Union decided that they could pool their wheat. The price of wheat was so low that nobody sold, and they told everybody to hold, and it worked, and they got the price they wanted. And then, I think it was the next year, but the Extension Service created an entity called Farm Bureau. And that was created to offset the successes farmers were having working together. This is my analysis.
They came out of the state institute.
But their early advertising, a lot of their early advertising is bragging that They were the only federally based farm organization. That's 180 degrees from where we're at now. And I actually, down here in Topeka, at the Historical Society, they have affidavits there from county agents whose salary was held until they signed up their quota of Farm Bureau members.
Wow.
And so it was calculated. Yes, sir.
What percent of the farmers belong to the Kansas Farm Union, and you get certain dues every night? I mean, we go up in small towns and we have a co-op.
Yeah.
Is that part of the Kansas Farm Union? Is that separate?
They're their own entities.
Yes, is that,
And
when the
when
co-op
they-
is separate than Kansas Farm Union? And how do you join this? Dues every year, or how many farmers?
Yeah,
belong
for
to it?
us, dues every year.
And how many farmers in Kansas belong to it?
We,
What percentage?
I have two different numbers to give you. I got dues paying members, what I call my true members, and there are about 1,200 members in the state.
1,200?
Yes. I have another figure called 7,500 members, and that's got some affiliate membership with our insurances. We are involved in some insurance.
Did you say in the state?
Yes.
Good grief.
We have 300,000 members in the nation. We have a good staff in D.C. Kansas is, when you talk about members in the state compared to other states, we're about mid-sized. There's some much more powerful than us.
What's the benefit to a small farmer to join the farmers union?
Well, how is the one farmer out on the farm going to get his voice heard in Washington D.C. or in Topeka if he doesn't have an entity that he can work policy through?
Okay.
And our policy is as grassroots as you can get. We had our state convention down here in Topeka in December. Mary took that to national. We'll be voting delegates at national convention in the 1st of March. And our policy is as grassroots as you can get. And if you want to be a member of Farmers Union, just go to our website and sign up. I mean, we'd be honored to have you. And
Is it the same dues for everybody, or is it size of your farm, or how does it work?
we're just $55 if you write a check, and if you do a bank draft, it's $45 a year. That's our membership. And you get a bi-monthly newsletter. We have a state convention. We have tours all over the state all the time. And we're very proud of what we do. We got a good staff right now.
Is the ethanol, what's being paid for, is that under the energy bill, but corn for ethanol, it used to be up to 59 cents or whatever it is per gallon, the Nord, is that under the farm bill or under the energy bill, or how does that?
It's under
come
the,
in?
it's the energy title under the Farm Bill, I think. But anyhow, the fiscal cliff bill that just got passed, that included the Farm Bill in it, also extended the energy program 1
So
year.
that's under the farm bill. So, I mean, like 1 or 2 years ago, they said $5 or $6 billion was being spent just on subsidizing 59 cents a gallon, per gallon of ethanol goes in gas. Now, I don't know, I mean, that's in the farm bill. So you say it is under the farm bill.
Yeah. That's a real touchy area for me because our policy is in support of corn ethanol. And I personally have some serious issues about that. So I just don't talk about it much. But, Gary?
Yeah, a little different direction, but what's the water situation? I know, having lived out in western Kansas for a while and all the irrigation and stuff going on, especially with the drought, is there going to be any significant, do you foresee any real changes in crop, I guess, planting, that different crops are going to be, maybe not as much corn in some of those dry areas? And are we, where are we with water reserves?
Critical. Climate change is real, and we know what's going on. One of our key speakers at our state convention this year was Dr. Fedina here from KU, such an expert on climate change. But the water issue, anyhow, is critical. We're all familiar with what the Ogallala Aquifer is. And about this time last year, we helped host a conference in Muleshoe, Texas, and it was on water. And the aquifer stretches down through the Panhandle of Texas, and we had all kinds of hot shots from Texas Tech University there. And 14 years ago, they had put together a map of the entire Ogallala Aquifer underneath Texas. And they had the depth of every well in every county. And then they went through this last year and measured them again. And in 14 years, over half of the available water in the Ogallala Aquifer is gone.
Oh my goodness.
And in one county, they had a graduate student counting wells on an aerial map, and it was up to 20,000 wells in one county, and they're still underneath. There's no water loss. They have less than 10 years of water underneath them in Texas. And there's brand new dairies, big mega dairies. You want to see what corporate ag is going to do to Kansas, go to the Panhandle of Texas. They're just 20 years ahead of us. County seats are boarding up, hospitals are shutting down. They're super modern, super big ag.
So, speculate, what will agribusiness look like 50, 75 years from now?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, I grew up on a farm in a small farm in Minnesota, and it's like small farms in Minnesota are disappearing. I mean, they're being consolidated. Large corporations are buying them. I know what things are like now. What do you speculate? Just think of what's your thoughts about it? What is it going to look like? You don't have to. I just be interested in your own speculation.
The concentration is going to continue, and the figures have not changed at all. The irony of that is the concentration continues, it allows more and more opportunities for niche and value added. And so Dean Mark Johnson, the Dean of Ag at K-State, testified before the Federal Reserve Board in Kansas City a few years ago at a meeting we hosted. And he said then there's two types of agriculture. He says there's big ag that's going to succeed, and there's niche markets and value added. The irony of it, as it gets more and more concentrated, it seems like the niche markets and the value added are looking better and better all the time. And we've hosted a series of tours this year that really kind of reflect that. But that's always a stacked deck too. I mean, when you got the power and you got the money and you're helping make the laws, a lot of what I do in Topeka and Washington DC is watchdogging to allow these niche markets and value added to continue, because all at once they want to put some sanitary health restriction on something that doesn't go through a radiation bath, and this is what you're dealing with.
The Kansas Farm Secretary, I think last week, earlier, said that Kansas keeps out, I think, big farming industry, and wants to pass different laws to allow more big corporations to come in and farming. What's your viewpoint on this? You think he's all wrong on this, or do you?
He's absolutely all wrong on this. Dennis Rodman, his background, he was an executive at Cargill.
He was what?
An executive at Cargill was before his retirement.
Do you think he'll get away with this?
Absolutely. It's going to happen. There's nothing not going to happen.
I mean, does the legislature have the power to do this?
Yes.
We change the laws and
Yes.
and let the big corporations in.
That's going to be the least of your problems in this legislative session. I mean, if he does away with the state income tax, the school districts are going to start raising the mill levies. All the farmers are going to be paying super higher property taxes than they were paying. The things are going to still have to happen. That's been happening. If he does away with the state income tax, it's just who's going to be paying the bills.
But did they doing away with the corporate tax, $291,000?
Yeah.
Are there many farmers in that, or is that mostly other business?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way it is right now, if you're a business owner, a small business owner, you don't pay any income tax, but all your employees do if you're W-2s. That's kind of strange. But back to the corporate. Last year, the first year they came through and almost took away everything that was left, and there was hardly anything left. That's why I'm being asked by reporters all the time what this means, and I haven't seen the bill. I didn't know there was any restrictions out there. The only restrictions I know at this time is on corporate swine. And if at this time, and I had to fight like heck last year just to get it to stay like this, but if 5% of the population of the county signs a petition, they can put on the ballot whether they want to let that corporate swine operation into their county or not. And that's the only restrictions that I know of. So this is kind of the same entities out there saying we got to get out of government, government's too big, and they're telling county governments what they can and cannot do. Is that right? And it's just so weird to me. And I think, and so in my mind, somewhere out there, there's this huge swine operation wants to swoop into an area, and it is so bad and so big that even the residents of that rural county would be puking. And so I think that's what's behind this whole game. And you know, I just tickle me pink if me and 3 other neighbors would go over to Johnson County and apply for a permit to build a home farm. Yes, sir.
Weather's always had a big impact on farming, climate change, changing weather. A lot of the farm state representatives in Congress are Republicans, and the Republican Party has been either denied or considered relatively unimportant addressing climate change. What's going to happen in the farming community as people whose livelihood depends very directly on weather and climate change might have on it's both on views within the community and then likely political impact?
That's a really good statement, and you're right on. I mean, it's just amazing to watch because they're all in denial, yet it's happening to them. And so then now they're saying, well, it's just a drought. Yeah, it is just a drought. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen in this country, and the data's there. But anyhow, I got another friend that's very well known worldwide for his work on climate change, and he had at home here, he can't hardly say anything, and I asked him one day, isn't that frustrating to you? And he just shrugged his shoulders, and he says in 5 years it ain't gonna matter, they're gonna all be screaming for everything we can help them. And he told me last fall that all the modeling was there for dust bowls in southwest Kansas this winter compared to the 30s. It's already happened now, it's in the news out there. You know, no-till is great, but if you don't have any vegetation on top, it ain't gonna make any difference. And, but anyhow, to take that a step farther, we're having to adjust every day. I mostly missed the drought the year before. It ended about 20 miles south of me too. I had some crops and I had a good hay crop, one of the best I've ever had the year before last. Last year I didn't. It's rain in May that makes hay. And if they wouldn't open up CRP, I'd sell my cow herd. That's the only thing that's keeping my cow herd on the farm. And you can't buy $100 a bale hay and feed it to your cows. You just can't do that. And so that's the only thing that saved my cow herd kept on the farm was that CRP hay. I thought I put up enough I'd have carryover. I'm not. If I have any left over, it'll be helping an egg route that's short. And so it's hand them out to see if we can keep the cow herd. And in my area, we're almost all native grass, so that's a big thing for me.
Now, considering the agencies involved in exchanging apples for oranges, how or when have you been able to do this? I mean, there's nothing simple about it. One is tropical, the other is not. They're both fruits. And we use them, every one I know has some to do with these different kinds of fruit. And if you specialize in one, you're boxed in. If you specialize in the other, and we as consumers, they both need protection, and they need transportation. How do you solve these issues?
I don't have the answer for you.
But you realize there
Yeah.
is an issue, there is a problem.
Yes. And In Farmers Union, we have a real active Farmers Union organization in Wisconsin, and we have a real active Farmers Union organization in California. I'm an old has-been dairyman. I will not even go to their dairy policy drafting sessions, because what California dairies need and what Wisconsin dairies need and want are two different things. And so even within our organization, you have those types of conflicts in just geography. And then you start talking about the other specialty crops, and we're a general farm organization. And
You have storage, you have transportation issues.
yeah. And that's always an ongoing thing, and so we do the best we can.
Do you think there's gonna be an expansion of the kind of community farming kind of stuff that's going on, where farmers are selling directly to consumers or bypassing?
Yes,
Do you think that, do you expect that to expand, or is that gonna be just kind of a novelty all?
yes, I completely expect it to expand, and I think greatly. And it may happen in spite of what the government might do to try and stop it.
Right.
In 2005, Kansas Farmers Union hosted a marketing workshop in Lindsborg, Kansas. And one guy and his wife from northwest Kansas came down to that. His name was Chris Schmidt. And I always said that that type of agriculture would work in eastern Kansas and populated areas. This is northwest Kansas, northeast Colorado, southwest Nebraska. They got the High Plains Food Co-op going. You go to the website, there's like, how much, 46 producers now that
I think
are
so.
supplying that? And their target market is the Front Range. And they're doubling in size every year.
Denver.
It's just doing wonderful. And people order what they want from the producer they want online, just a click of the computer, pay for it, and they have delivery drop-off points on the Front Range, and once or twice a month the trailer goes out. And that's just growing and growing. And I tell people, if you can do that in northwest Kansas, you can do that anywhere in the country.
Right. I know obviously, the food's a whole heck of a lot better. Is that economically,
Beneficial to
better
the producers?
for the farmer?
Yes.
Because you pay a lot of money for that stuff. But is that a place for farmers to start making it?
Yes.
Small family farmers?
Chris Schmidt himself, a small part of what he produces goes through this High Plains Food Co-op, but it builds a name and word of mouth spreads. He's doing over $70,000 a year in feed sales, direct to the consumer. And that's a win-win for the local locker, that's a win-win for the local community, and I have another acquaintance that is selling over 200 head a year now through the mail, beef, frozen packages of meat.
The consumer has to be willing to pay a little more.
Yes. The true cost.
That's right.
I hope I haven't bored you too much. I know it probably went way over.
Not at all. No, you didn't. Thank you so much, Don. Can you stay a few minutes afterwards? Okay, he's gonna be able to stay a few minutes. He has some, up here, some of the newsletters too, if you all like to see it. Thank you again.
Well, I'm still worried about apples and oranges.